Guys, per the most recent video that I recently released, actually, by the time you watch this, I don't know which video is coming out first. We did everything in one stream. All right. But I released a video going over or reacting to Dwarf's video or my take on HP inflation, power creep, the power ceiling, power floor, all that. Dwarf made an amazing video. Because of that, I have different perspective now. My eyes are open a little bit more to what if we're looking at the bar, the green, the yellow players, right? My eyes are a little bit open now. Because of that, I wanted to try something with Prydwen's tier list. Now, I know in the last one that I said I was like, I don't really think I can do Prydwen's tier list anymore because the criteria just doesn't fit the type of player that I'm looking to, I don't want to say teach, but it feels like it's very stagnant now. And when I say stagnant, I mean player skill. I mean, like, it feels like it's made for players who want to remain at that level and they have no intention on improving. After speaking with everyone else and talking about everything going on right now, to be honest, I do feel like there are a lot of players who are in that bubble, in the green, in the blue, or in the yellow. And it might not be that they don't want to progress or improve. I think they don't know how. So I'm going to try and use this tier list to represent what some of these characters might feel or be like for y'all who might be in this particular diagram or whatever. And then maybe what we're able to do with the tier list is to explain why they should be there on top of what Prydwen is saying and what you could do to go above to the next step, or rather where you could go to the next step. Now, here we are on Prydwen's tier list. The only thing that has changed is the change log, meaning I should not have to go over the tier list, the skill ceilings, the criterions roles. I don't want to do all that this time. Now with the change log, we can see, ooh, wait, what? Oh, okay, wait. I thought it was just Hugo. That's a little different. We got to talk about that. They bumped Lycan up? Okay, timeout. I'm doing my best to not be EO right now. All right, let me look into this. Lycan has always had amazing performance as a free-to-play option for Miyabi. That part I think is pretty justified. A lot of people have been, sleeping on Lycan when it comes to pairing him with Miyabi, but I don't think it was specifically Miyabi. I think it's just Ice. Sometimes even outperforming premium team options in the right hands. I don't know what they mean by that. I would have to see the reference here. I've never seen this, but I would have to see what they're talking about. Maybe they're talking about the recent clip that we just showed off on my Twitter. Maybe stuff like that is what they're talking about. But even then with Miyabi still clears faster without it. Miyabi, Lycan, and Sokaku, is that what it is? Okay, maybe that's what it is then. What is that faster than? Is that team faster than something like with Yanagi? I feel like Yanagi is still her best go-to, but I could be wrong. Excuse me. I could be wrong. This is clearly reflected in his performance data. And Hugo gives him even more team flexibility. I don't think it's team flexibility, but I get what they mean. Hugo does bump him. He suffered from only having Ellen as an option beyond Miyabi teams. With his newfound team options with Hugo, he warrants his rise back to tier 0.5. Excuse me. So right now, when it comes to, let's try and break this down for, I guess, it's really just the new stuff. But if we look at this from a tier 0 perspective, Miyabi's still the only character that's a DPS in tier 0. I agree with that. Sanbi, Bernice, Evelyn, Hugo, Vivian, and Yanagi are all tier 0.5. I don't agree with that. Still, even with my newfound knowledge, even with the new changes, or rather my newfound perspective, I do believe there still needs to be some form of a separation. Now, mind you, this could just be representing that everyone is on equal terms and they're all pretty balanced. What I don't think is happening here, or rather what I think might be a little confusing if I were looking at this or trying to explain this, is how you would explain every single person in this tier list being on the same caliber, the same power level, which just isn't true. If we're looking at this from even Vivian and Bernice, Vivian is clearly the better off-fielder. That doesn't make Bernice bad by any means, but Vivian does have a one-up on Bernice, especially given the recent, it's recent when I say it, but it's not recent. Like we did it, we discovered it whenever Vivian was here during her banner, like the first week that her banner, actually CE server, the first week of CE server, something like that, or last week of CE server, something like that. We discovered that combo, right? The come in with the quick assist, the basic attack, EX skill, basic attack, because it's going to finish it off. She goes into the hover state or the flight state, and then you have a guaranteed 5 flight or 5 feathers every single time she comes on a field, right? And it's very consistent as long as you have her normal build and you're playing her on a pretty standard team. When I look at this, she's easier to manage than Bernice in most of the teams that we could look at. She fits into a number of teams that like Bernice, but don't have that weird synergistic, like that. It's a weird synergy. It's not forced. You know what I mean? Like Vivian flows a lot better. But again, this isn't saying that Bernice isn't great by any means. I just feel like if you're going to separate it, then separate it. And even now, right? Jane is still in tier 1, but Vivian brought Jane up. I mean, Vivian is easily the best thing that happened to Jane in a while. And that brought this character up big time. I know the way that it looks when it comes to Prydwen, especially based off the, where was it at? Here we go, the skill ceiling. When they explain this, and if I were to use that graph again, like I said, this is like green player, yellow player territory. Also, I've been talking about it all day on stream. Guys, if I'm saying like the colors, I'm not using it in a derogatory stance. Don't take offense if I say like a green player. There's nothing to be offensive or offended by. I'm just using it as a label so that we can understand mutually what skill floor or skill level I'm referring to. The problem with Vivian is that you still use up her resources when using skill, and the enemy has no anomaly on them. I don't fully know what you mean by that, Kane. Maybe if you elaborate on it, I could probably address it a little bit. But in regards to, I guess, like I said, how you play her normally, she builds meter pretty quickly. You should be using her parries or her assist, and you don't always need EX meter, especially given the team that you're playing. Now, the one teammate she has that just burns her shit is Yanagi. But then you play these two differently. It's less of a Nagi is always on field, Vivian comes out a little bit, and more about they share field time. People are gonna get mad you miscolor them. I hope not. But outside of that, Evelyn is here. Evelyn is good. Sambi is here. Sambi is literally here because like close my eyes and mash the keyboard. It's fine. Hugo. I thought they were gonna put Hugo in like tier 2. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm not gonna hold you. I genuinely thought because Hugo's dependency on double stunner, I thought they would put him in tier 2, like maximum tier 1. To see Hugo in tier 0.5 really surprises me. I do want to know why they placed him here. I have my own speculations. Why I think they placed him here is because he's literally a one-button nuke. There's no tech. I mean, he has tech, but you don't need it. There's no tech to be needed. You don't have to do anything hard. You don't have to think. You literally stun the enemy, press one button, they die. And that's why I believe they put him in tier 0.5. Let me see why. Maybe they have something here. His performance seems like he lines up on other characters in this tier. However, Hugo himself hasn't shaken the meta up too much. With that being said, he has given more team flexibility to a certain stun agent than before. And of course, they talk about Lycan. So they're not really explaining why he is tier 0.5 outside of his performance seems like he lives up to the other characters. But as I explained in both my eventual guide that'll release here probably next week or the end of this weekend, as well as my first impressions, Hugo actually has problems against a large roster. Or I won't say large, a decent enough roster in the enemy cast, like the enemy roster. Hugo does suffer some issues. If you can't stun the enemy, if they don't have a small enough HP bar to be able to take them out, you can't use Totalize. If you don't have his W engine for the defense shred, you will be 2-shotting, sometimes 3-shotting, most of the time 2 to 3-shotting, because you don't have that. I will check his page in a bit because I do want to see like some of the things that they're putting on Hugo, but there are some faults. There's definitely some faults to him when it comes to fighting enemies in particular. This doesn't take away from his nuke capability, but if you don't have the team, and it's not like he's super free to play friendly. I know a lot of people assume that Hugo's free to play teams they're not good. I mean, Lycan is included in most free to play teams because he is on a standard banner. But if I'm taking into account a player doesn't have Lycan and you're forced to use Lucy, Nicole, Sokaku, Anby, Seth isn't free anymore. Ben is free, or Ben, which I mean, Ben doesn't fit, but still, or Polkra. If you're forced to use any of these actual free to play characters with Hugo, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time. Seth was never free. I really feel like Seth was free. Am I bugging on that? Was Seth just never, like he wasn't a part of an event? I keep mixing that up. Corin's free. I know that. I feel like I'm pretty positive we got one Seth for free. No, really? Dang, man. I thought we did. He's never been in an event. Okay. I'm bugging. Take that back then. Take that back. Going back to what I was saying, Hugo's free to play options are a little weak, a lot of weak in comparison to like the game plan, right? You have to change a lot. And playing him as a, we'll call it a standard. I won't call it a hyper carry. Playing him as a standard. So let's say that the actual free-to-play team would consist of Hugo, Anbi, and Pulchra. So you get the double stunner, or Hugo, Anbi, and then Sokaku. And if you play Hugo, Anbi, Sokaku, this is a lot different because now what the green or average level player would have to use, you got to change your Sokaku. You can't run triple attack. It's not feasible. Now, yeah, you're going to get a huge attack boost. Excuse me. And that's how you get your plus 1000. But that's not actually helping Hugo. Hugo wants the stun. He wants a fast stun. The slower you are at stunning an enemy, the longer it's going to take him to get to his game plan. The other characters in the game that are free don't really help him do that. But damage-wise, yeah, damage-wise, he's definitely a 0.5 character. He nukes really hard. In fact, I think he does the most damage in the game. Like in a single instance, I think he actually does the most damage in the game. But I don't have the calcs for that. That's just me feels crafting. That is me feels crafting. Yeah, if the enemy doesn't have that stun bar, if they have multiple phases or even one phase like Bringer's Eyeball that takes away the stun bar, you're gonna notice it. I'm real positive if players haven't already noticed it now, trying to take Hugo into Deadly Assault, they're gonna notice it soon. They're gonna notice it soon. But let's look at Hugo real quick. So pros, the ultimate user of the Hormone Punk set, placing high emphasis on lots of crit scaling damage, accessed in short burst windows. Yes, utilizes niche double steam compositions to the fullest, allowing valuable support type agents to be used elsewhere. Agreed. Really easy to pick up gameplay. Yeah, literally you just press one button. Absolutely agree. Lots of buffs against smaller enemies, useful for hitting targets that aren't bosses in content like Shiyu defense. I guess, I mean, you would just one tap them anyway. Super cool villain bad guy type. Yeah, he's Dio. I like it. The cons: high reliance on limited stun agents who can at the same time buff Hugo and inflict daze on enemies. Team compositions are undeniably restrictive. Be prepared to invest lots of resources. Yes, absolutely. Necessities to learn certain techniques, make good use out of him, such as double chains. Otherwise, his damage may see notable drop-offs. You don't get to see him much when playing him outside of the brief stun windows, which is unfortunate because we like Hugo. That's fair. I wouldn't necessarily count that as a con, but same thing as a bad guy type, right? A little flavor text. So these two right here, the cons, I don't know if these two cons would be enough to bring him down from 0.5, but I also don't know if these pros are enough to put him in 0.5 with everyone else. I legit, honestly, I think Hugo is just up here because of the 0.5. I mean, the one tap button, one tap kill. That's it. I don't think there's a valid reason that they might have given me as to why he's up here with the rest of these units, knowing how restrictive his teams are. And again, looking at this from, you don't have his W engine, which means you don't have someone else's, like, let's say Trigger or Lighter. You don't have their W engines either. You also don't have the cracked out builds. You're not making, or you are making mistakes. There's a lot of defaults that I could go to, or a lot of faults that we could default to when it comes to Hugo and like what would keep him from being on the same caliber as some of these characters. Mind you, again, this isn't me saying that this character is not worth tier 0.5. This is me more along the lines of like trying to think about this from where Prydwen is trying to their mission statement. This is me thinking about that. I thought he'd be lower. It's nice that he is in 0.5, but this 0.5 tier list is getting too cluttered. This is now, in my opinion, too messy, because when Xuan comes out, if they put Xuan in tier 0, but Xuan doesn't do half the shit that Miyabi does or afford half the value, she's going to get thrown into tier 0.5. And that's going to create a huge issue, especially coming from like a casual perspective, because now it's going to look like Sambi, Bernice, Yanagi, Vivian, Hugo, and Evelyn are all on the same caliber as Xuan. But then Xuan is also somehow on the same caliber as Miyabi. It'll create too much of a conflict. It's nothing wrong with putting some characters in tier 1, especially when you have Haramasa in tier 1.5. Ellen is in tier 2, and then you have Soldier as well in tier 2. Excuse me. Despite all the stuff we have about Ellen right now. Ambi's okay, I guess. Poleta being in 0.5 or 1.5, I don't fully agree with it, especially if Rena is tier 1. But this is just from like a player perspective, like how much uptime, how much work do you need to do? Rena is not an easy character to pilot. It feels that way, but you're not optimally playing her if you're not doing certain things with this character, which does go under execution or tech. paying attention to the timer, the puppets, especially at M0. She's not easy to play. Why is Bernice there? Bernice does damage. Everything she does consists of damage. Why she's in 0.5, I'm not entirely too sure. I do feel like if anybody were to drop down, she would be the first one to get thrown down. Excuse me. I think because of recency bias, they would also throw Yanagi down at some point. She'd be the next one to go. But Bernice definitely doesn't need to be in 0.5. She should be down here with the Jane, to be fair. Evelyn definitely deserves 0.5. Sanbi, I guess, but Sanbi's also dependent on trigger. You can use other things with Sanbi, but the damage difference of the performance is a little like, it's drastic. Hugo's damage performance without one of these two characters, Lycan or Lighter, is drastic. I know that some people are like, yo, Hugo and Trigger, like you can use that. Trigger is anti-synergistic with Hugo because you don't want to on-field Hugo. You also don't want to on-field Lighter. So if you play Lighter, Trigger, Hugo, the team is clunky. Lycan works better because you do want to on-field Lycan or even Xingyi, but now you're missing out on the damage buffs that either of these two give Hugo. We're also taking into account no W engine, which means Trigger does not give defense shred. You don't have his W engine either, so you also don't have his defense shred. So the only other person that's on the who he wants is Lighter. Astra is not the support at all for Hugo. Like literally, Astra is more anti-synergistic with Hugo than Trigger is because she's gonna force him on the field if you continue to tap the button. If you're running Hormone Punk, this makes it even worse because now you keep activating passives when you don't need them. And this makes it more restrictive on the player because now they have to have skill. You have to have good execution in order to pilot the two of them together. So they are not good. The first character that we've gotten DPS wise that absolutely does not want Astra. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't use her. You could absolutely use her, but they are not synergistic. Trigger and Hugo are not synergistic. Click on the Hugo teams. Okay, let's read this. I'll start with the supports. So Kaku and Astrial, these two support units unfortunately do not give Hugo his extra attack buff from his core passive, true. And they also do not generate a lot of days, which may lower the amount of stun windows available per fight for Hugo to exploit. Also true, also why I said if you run Sokaku, the reason why it would create a bit of an unfortunate problem for the like the casual or free-to-play player is because if they're already complaining about, and I don't want to say complaining, if we take into account that a casual or average player does not have multiple builds or multiple build options to work through, I highly doubt they're gonna have an impact Sokaku. And so impact Sokaku is absolutely gonna be or AM. But if you're talking about stun value, impact Sokaku is what you're looking for if you're pairing her up with Hugo. On top of the fact that we just explained it earlier, but for those that weren't in the stream because we're on the video right now, Sokaku has a heavy parry. Let me show you guys just in case you don't know what that is. It should be on the website here as well. It's in defensive assists. Here we go. Anytime you read that this skill excels at parrying an enemy attack and reduces the consumption of assist points, that means it's -1. So normally whenever you use a parry or an assist, it takes 2 of the golden or yellow bars. And then if you have this in the description, instead of 2, it takes away 1. What this helps someone who's playing Sokaku do, you don't receive the huge attack buff that Hugo gives himself, but because of her passive, and she's gonna give, we're just gonna use the normal number, but you do have to max out her attack to a certain point to get the full value. If you're using Hugo and Sokaku, let's just go ahead and give the +1000 attack. So she gives +1000 attack, which makes up for what you're missing. Boom. And then after that point, once you have that, using Sokaku with impact allows you to parry more, which increases the stun faster than if you didn't do it at all. This would be beneficial for Hugo if you had to run Sokaku. Now, finishing that sentence or statement from the Astrial and Sokaku, the team op. However, by the sheer amount of buffs they provide, they are able to provide Hugo with valuable boosts to his damage. And while this isn't sufficient to justify them as the best team for Hugo, they are perfectly viable. I don't think I would use the term perfectly, but it's semantics, right? It's definitely semantics. I see some of you guys talking about it in chat, which was the bringer stuff that I was mentioning earlier. Astra gives you the attack buff or a boost to one-shot. Sokaku helps you get the boost to freeze and then one-shot. So the entire difference between using one of these supports and not using the support is literally if your Hugo can one-shot. If your Hugo can't one-shot, you go into a repetitive cycle where now you need to go through the stun process again. With one stunner on your team, and let's just remove Sokaku for a moment, and we'll use Astra Yao. If you're using one stunner, doesn't really matter, and then Astra, your stun time is already significantly reduced by half, at least 50%. Then you gotta do it again because you didn't one-shot the enemy. That's not fun. It's not gonna be a good time. If it already takes you, hypothetically, it takes you 20 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds to get the stun with that standard team, you don't kill, and that's at least 10 seconds, right? 5 to 10 seconds of you doing your chain attacks, the rotations, the buffs, whatever. Then it takes you another 20 to 30 seconds to stun them again. You're already pushing past a minute. You're already pushing past a minute just to get the second stun. And this is all under the pretense that you can't kill in one single shot. Why don't they mention Colade over Pokra? She stuns faster than every other stunner. I think it's because Colade doesn't really give Hugo plenty of buffs. I mean, she gives the chain attack buff, but he doesn't really care about the chain attack itself. I wouldn't have put Pokra on this list at all, personally. I think Pokra is only good if you're running Lycan or Qingyi. And again, like, running Qingyi she's just universally the best stunner in the game. So running Qingyi to do that and then assisting her with the second stunner, that works, because now you can just on-field Qingyi the entire time, get the stun pretty fast thanks to Pokra, and then Hugo can get the party started. She also gives a huge stun multiplier buff when they're stunned, which is going to help make up for the difference of him not running, or actually you're running double stunner anyway. So you get that on top of the damage multiplier. So it works in your favor for sure. Yeah, it works in your favor for sure. C6 Pokra does give a 30% all type damage buff. That's not really the problem. The problem is Pokra is just, I think it's easier if I just show you. Like maybe I have it. I know I have it on my computer, but I don't think I can show that without it being something in the footage. You know what I mean? Let's go to my channel real quick, and I just want to see if maybe I can get sure that I'm working in a clean shot of it. Okay, this might be it. I know my gameplay might be a little scattered all over the place. It repeats whatever it's gonna do, or it goes into its second phase. But when Hugo takes the stun away, okay. So you see right now what's happening, right? I have the stun with Lycan. Lighter has already done his work. Instantly, Lycan's gonna get the stun right about here. Boom. And you see how I immediately totalized, and I'm already doing another stun, right? With Pokra on your team, this doesn't happen because Pokra is slower. Like, Pokra is great for off-field stunning. She's huge for that. But if you don't have the appropriate character on field, because Lighter's not super fast at doing the stun, right? He's not a fast stunner. His moves make him fast. The auras, the jet punch, the falcon punch, the uppercut, the ult, got a lot of high impact moves, but they take time to charge up. Lycan is amazing at being on field, and he can freeze the enemy to just keep them from doing whatever. And he has a lot of high interrupt resistance. Qingyi, same thing, right? Amazing at being on field. Trigger is a better version of Pokra, but also doesn't want to be on the field. Who else did they have? That's it. Yeah, that's it. So it's not about Pokra not being a good option per se, or like that she's bad as a character. It's that she's not a great option for Hugo because of the game plan that he wants. So if you don't have Lighter nor Trigger, Pokra and Lycan could be a good alternative for you, yes. Because now you can on-field Lycan. You need to make some adjustments though. If you're gonna do that, let's say that you're playing Lycan, Pokra, and I have gameplay of it, but like I said, I can't show CE server footage, so I'll have to work on it. If you're playing Lycra, wow, that's a cool name. Lycan, Pokra, and Hugo. The order would be Lycan, Hugo, and then Pokra. So a couple things rather, that you're gonna be wanting to pay attention to in a particular situation like that. Pokra's quick assist is a reverse B, so it goes backwards, right? So whenever she comes out to do her, evasive assist and then the gun, that does good days. But now she's gonna quick assist into Hugo. Again, sending Hugo into battle before the enemy is stunned will fuck up your hormone pump. And so another thing that I would recommend, even though we're all unanimously, everyone that talks about Hugo, everyone unanimously understands or is in agreement, Hormone Punk is his best one to play, right? If you don't have double stunner, don't play Hormone Punk unless you just like have really cracked out sets, right? Or let me change that. If your second stunner option is Pokra or Trigger, you shouldn't be using Hormone Punk. The consistency behind keeping that buff up and when they're going to decide to stun or help stun is going to be too inconsistent for a lot of players, especially just picking up the type of character that Hugo is, because he's not a normal, like he's the definition of a burst DPS, but he's not something that we've had in the game yet. No type of character has been present like Hugo. So it's going to be new to a lot of players. Woodpecker would probably be what I recommend. You still get your crit. You still keep the 4-piece benefit, which is like a good combat attack boost, right? And then you can 2-piece whatever the hell you want. Hormone, polar metal, branch and blade, doesn't matter. And this will make it so that you're not stressing about time anymore. This would be the best alternative to go about doing something like that. And just to run it back again so you guys kind of see what's going on here. That's a 3.1 or 3.7 million damage on totalize. 3.7, yeah, 3.7 mil totalized. Right before this, look at this. I'm stunning. The enemy is stunned. I'm using the totalize tech, by the way, that I showed you guys in this video. Totalize happens. You see all three of them are on the field at the same time right now. Excuse me. Lighter is in the air. Lycan is stomping his foot on the ground. Hugo is spinning his scythe. I get off the stun with Lighter, and because the game is coded a certain way, I immediately pull Lycan from behind Thracian. He starts up his chain attack, and so now what's going to happen, I get chain attack, and you see it barely coming in, right? Totalize has already taken effect. He is already 25% days increased, and now I'm at 31 with a max charge ult. And Lighter's about to have his ult right after this, and Hugo is also about to have his ult right after this. We pop ult after getting a freeze. Boom. So many times he's gonna throw his spear in the air, and then lightning bolts all come down, and then he slams. And I'm only doing this to show off like what's happening here. There's my chain attack, cancel into the ult, and this is now gonna be deleted. And if you pay attention to the timer in that top right, 8:02. By the time I got to Thracian, this is a minute clear, like a sub 60 clear, sub 50 clear, something like that, whatever. Because the whole game plan behind Hugo, Nuke, I want to cut out all the HP, as much HP as possible. I want to cut it out. So you want all your buffs every time he comes on a battle. You want all those buffs up at all times. At all times, you want the buff up. Finishing out the tier list though, or at least these changes in the tier list. I guess due to who is in the game right now, I don't see Lycan not being a buff up, but I also do believe if they were gonna buff up Lycan for literally Hugo coming out, and I guess because of Miyabi, Ellen would have to get bumped up as well. And there's plenty of footage to provide or prove this, right? Even without using Ellen's crazy shark dash tech or scissor cancels, nothing like that. Even without using any of that, Ellen is putting in work right now. And I do believe that Ellen, especially based on clear times that we are seeing, he is at least in this tier 1 category as of right now. He's easier to play than Haramasa. Again, taking into account that Prydwen is targeting players that are in the green, a little bit of the yellow. She's easier to play, and her damage output, especially if we're bumping up Lycan, and we have all these other characters that benefit her, her damage output is quickly climbing up there with a lot of them. Not obviously like a fucking Miyabi or some shit like that, or a Sambi, but it's up there. It's up there. Nothing else has changed. I still do believe if we're, again, keeping the green yellow player territory thing, Caesar should just go up in a tier 0. I understand why she's in tier 0.5 because Asher is just that much better. But due to the fact that Caesar literally makes it so that you don't have to be afraid of anything in the game, I do feel like that warrants her being in tier 0 specifically for this type of player that they are targeting right now with their tier list and information. Other than that, everything else is okay. Most of my opinions on some of these things just won't change, right? Seth being tier 2, it literally just read the kit and it bumps up to tier 1. Seth is amazing, especially if you're playing Anomaly. He's easily one of the best partners you have in the game. If you're using Astra on anything else, your go-to or your next go-to should always be Seth. He provides defensive capabilities and offensive capabilities and support, which is exactly what you're looking for a team like that. Lycan getting bumped up, as long as they have the appropriate units to use, is good. Hugo being in tier 0.5, again, I think damage-wise makes sense, but based on the restrictiveness of his kit, or rather his team comps, his options, I don't think he sits up here with the rest of these characters. If that is the case, and we're doing tags, I do think that he deserves the partner tag I do believe, like, if Soldier has the partner tag because of lighter, Hugo deserves the partner tag. And it doesn't have to be exclusively lighter. It needs to be one of these two. It needs to be Lycan or lighter. And that's how you're really gonna excel. Like, one of them needs to be on the team with Hugo as of right now. Yeah, he 100% should get a partner tag. He doesn't need an expert tag or anything like that, but he 100% should get a partner tag. 100%. And maybe the partner just says like premium stunner. They already say it in their, where is it at? In the review, that he needs, or rather is heavily reliant on, a limited stun agent. This, in my opinion, classifies as him just give him a partner tag. That way the players who are looking at it are more aware of why, right? Because a lot of people, even I've gotten comments on it, they look at it and they're like, oh, I could play Hugo with any 2 stunners, or I can play Hugo with Trigger and Nicole, or Trigger and Astra plus Hugo, and I'm gonna do 1 million damage. I'm gonna do 5 million damage with my totalize. Yeah, you're not doing that. You're not doing that, bucko, you know? Maybe after you finally stun the enemy, 3 minutes later, you'll do your 3 million damage on totalize, but you're not actually playing towards his game plan. But that's neither here nor there anymore. Any questions? We can open it up the floor before we like kind of end off the video here. Making sure I understand, with lighter and Lycan, or with lighter / Lycan, would Trigger still be worse than Coleta due to stun speed? Lycan and Trigger will be better than lighter and Trigger from a performance level. You physically playing the team. If we're only looking at the buffs, then lighter and Trigger will be the best. But from a playing the game, it's gonna be Lycan and Trigger. If that were the 2 that you really wanted to use, those will be the best playability wise, comfortability wise. You have to, yeah, and you have to control Hugo's energy, but I mean, honestly, you're only using EX slash or EX skill once a stun at M0. You're using it once a stun. He starts off with like 50%. By the time you get to stun, he's at 75%. You have enough. You have enough. You absolutely have enough. You get a couple chain attacks in there. Then you also have to remember, right? You're not only using EX skill, you also have ult. So your ult is a huge nuke. It's like 3,400% damage or something like that as a multiplier. So you're not even using, like, if you get 3 stuns, all 3 stuns are not all 3 skills, right? So 3 stuns equal 3 skills. Nah, it's more like 3 stuns, 2 skills, 1 ult. Sometimes it's literally just 1 skill, 1 ult. So it works out. Should I pull Hugo or lighter for Evelyn? For Evelyn, you absolutely want lighter. You don't want Hugo at all. It can work, but you don't necessarily want it. And even then, you still need lighter. If you were trying to play Evelyn and Hugo at the same time, you still need lighter. He is the glue to that team. He buffs up both of them so that they're not really missing a lot of damage, and each one of them self-buff themselves so to the point where they're not really missing what's going on. But I feel like that was a good wrap up of the tier list. I wanted to talk a lot slower so that more people could get some things out, or rather understand some things. Plus, I'm speaking and thinking at the same time there. I didn't want to rush.